On a cozy wooden shelf in a small neighborhood bakery lived two very unlikely best friends, a warm, hearty loaf of bread and a sweet, cheerful cookie. The bread was large and golden, with a beautifully crackled crust that told the story of how much time it had spent in the hot oven. It was calm and thoughtful, shaped by long hours of rising and a whole lot of patience. The cookie, on the other hand, was small, perfectly round, and absolutely packed with chocolate chips. It always smelled of sugar and laughter. Where the bread was steady and quiet, the cookie was playful and endlessly curious. Every single morning, as golden sunlight spilled through the bakery window, the cookie would roll just a tiny bit closer to the bread. "Good morning," the cookie would chirp. "Do you think today is the day?" The bread would always smile gently. "Every day is a day," it would reply in its warm, calm voice. "We just don't know what kind yet." Together, they watched people come and go. Some rushed in, barely even looking, just grabbing whatever was closest. Others took their time, pressing the bread softly to check its freshness, or pointing excitedly at the cookies behind the glass display. The cookie dreamed of being chosen by a child with bright, curious eyes. The bread hoped to be taken home by a loving family, to sit right at the center of their dinner table and be shared among them. Even though they dreamed of different futures, they shared the exact same fear. "What if we're never chosen?" the cookie asked one afternoon, its voice much quieter than usual. The bread paused for a moment before answering. "Then, at least we were here," it said softly. Together, days turned into a week, and the shelf around them slowly emptied. The muffins disappeared. The flaky croissants were wrapped up in paper and taken away. The space around them grew wider and colder, and the bakery seemed a little less cheerful. The cookie tried its best to stay positive, but its chocolate chip crumbs trembled with worry. Then, one evening, just before closing time, the baker approached the shelf. The bread and the cookie both felt it's that special moment when all the waiting finally comes to an end. A customer pointed. "That loaf of bread, please." The big one. The bread was lifted gently from the shelf, but as it was being placed into a crisp paper bag, it saw the cookie, still sitting all alone. For the very first time, the bread felt a kind of heaviness that the oven had never made it feel before. "Be brave," the bread whispered, its voice muffled by the paper. The cookie tried to smile, even though it felt like crumbling. "You too, don't forget me." The bread was carried away, and the shelf suddenly felt unbearably quiet and empty. The very next morning, a small hand pressed right up against the glass case. "Can I have that cookie, please?" a child asked, their voice full of excitement. The cookie was carefully wrapped and lifted, its sugary heart racing with joy. As it was being carried out of the bakery, it noticed something familiar on a nearby table, a loaf of bread, sliced and being shared, surrounded by happy laughter. For just a moment, their eyes met across the room. They couldn't speak, of course, but they didn't need to. They had both been chosen. They had both been loved. And even though they were apart, their friendship had carried them to exactly where they were meant to be. Sometimes, being best friends doesn't mean you have to stay together forever. Sometimes, it means helping each other become something more. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. See you next time.